Thought I'd do it past cool. What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Whittlefoot. Now, listen, y'all. We got a situation here. How come nobody's talking about this? There is a lot of things going on in the school systems. Why is all the teachers starting to quit? Why are teachers quitting their jobs as in education? Why are we leaving? Why are we losing? Excuse me. Why are we losing a drastic amount of teachers? Teachers who are young, teachers who are OGs, who've been like teachers since like years, like decades. You feel what I'm saying? Why are they leaving the educational field, or why are they leaving the educational practice? Now, this is something I was thinking about because I'm like, yo, why is no president campaign, no president candidate is talking about the educational system? Either the Republicans or the Democrats. You feel what I'm saying? And I'm thinking like society is going to shit. So the school system's gotta be like getting some like facing the repercussions of what's going on in this world, right? So I'm like, I bet let me check something out. Do a little browsing around, browsing around the internet and stuff like that. Came across some content that I found was very intriguing. So I was like, all right, bet. Let me see what the teachers got to say. So this is about the teachers and why they're leaving the educational system. Now, these some of these teachers have accents. I'm not sure if they all in America, but for the most part, I know majority of these teachers are practicing in America. Okay, so with that being said, I want to try to check out what these teachers are saying are happening in their classrooms and what the behaviors that the kids are acting out nowadays in these classrooms. Y'all take a look at this.
And they will be losing no playtime tomorrow. The reason I went into teaching was to make kids feel welcomed and accepted as they are and to build on their passions. So choosing to leave teaching was really hard for me.
I quit teaching. I have been cursed at by both students and parents. I have been hit, punched repeatedly. And what hurts the most is the lack of support.
I didn't realize how toxic being a teacher in the United States was until I left the profession.
Why teachers are quitting.
When do I decide to throw in the towel and leave my kids and my team? Because I had like a legitimate panic attack last night for the first time in years. And I just feel like I'm being like completely picked apart. And I'm trying really hard to keep a positive attitude about it, but I just woke up so anxious this morning. And then I had 7 people from the district in my room observing me today, and I thought it went really well. My kids were engaged, they were doing what they were supposed to be doing. And I had planning with my coach after, and she just told me about like all of the things that I did wrong. And I don't know how much more I can do. But my kids come in for indoor recess in 3 minutes, so I gotta get it together before then.
Yeah, see that? Now this is my thing too. Now there's a like to be a teacher, you really gotta believe in students and really love kids, right? For the most part, right? So I feel like some of these women are genuinely nice women. You feel me? Have nice spirits, are genuinely nice people, right? Nice women. Oh, men and women, because there's men in here as teachers too. So I think these are generally nice people. Now, if you are overly nice, right, and it could mess up your mental health. Like it could really mess you up because you going into this environment thinking that you being nice and friendly is the way to go. But once you get in this environment, you finding out that it's toxic in the sense of kids are acting out, they're being violent, they're disrespectful to you, they have no consideration to what can happen to them if they do something to you, like no repercussions basically, right? Or no punishment, right? So these kids are acting crazy, and I'm not gonna really say crazy, but they're acting out of their character, what they're supposed to be acting for their age, and the norm is completely to act rowdy, reckless, and disrespectful, to just disobey what the teacher says, to disregard the lesson, to just be a class clown. And I'm not gonna lie, to be fair, this did go on when I was in high school too. When I was in school too. But the thing about me, I'll speak on my own personal experience for a minute. The thing about me, I did have knuckleheads in my class that didn't want to learn, and because they didn't want to learn, they would try to prevent other people from learning as well. That did happen. although that happened, I was one of the students who enjoyed coming to class and learning. However, one thing I didn't like as a kid was homework. You get what I'm saying? Like, I didn't like homework, whatever, but I did it for the most part, right?
I think one of the hardest parts about being a teacher is not having any energy at the end of the day to take care of yourself. I spend all of my days being high energy, trying to think of creative ways to engage my students, and making sure that I meet their diverse needs. I love my students and I love my job, but it's hard to go home feeling exhausted every day. My goal is to find the balance between being a good teacher while also finding the time and energy to pour into myself, because I know that this lack of self-care is not sustainable.
I didn't realize how toxic being a teacher in the United States was until I left the profession. I taught high school English for 7 years, and during that time, I would take my paid time off, my PTO, which we've got very few days a year that we could take off, to go home and grade papers. I would use my paid time off to grade papers because I was so overwhelmed with the workload and I was going to get dinged if I didn't get hundreds of essays back to my students that I had to take my paid time off to work, not paid. I thought because I could go to the bathroom when I wanted and eat when I wanted, it was considered a day off. And I was not the only teacher doing that. A lot of teachers were doing that.
Emotional exhaustion.
So, yeah, there was kids who was disturbing the class, and I would tell them, like, yo, bro, why y'all doing this in class? Like, I'm trying to learn the lesson. I'm trying to write down the objective. I'm trying to hear the lesson, so we guaranteed to get tested on this, or I'm just trying to take down some notes, you feel what I'm saying? Or annotate, you feel what I'm saying? Or just, take down some notes so I can know what the lesson is about, so when I go home, I could do the homework. If I gotta take a test, I could tie back and reference these notes. You get what I'm saying? Or I'm trying to ask questions because I really I don't know, this, or I don't know that, or I'm just trying to find out, So there was kids that was disruptive in class when I was coming up. But nowadays, like, and it was kids who were trying to fight the teachers too back in the days too, That all happened. I'm not saying that none of this behavior that these kids are acting on today is okay. I'm just saying, to be fair, it did happen when I was a young kid too. But at the end of the day, we had some type of, there was a boundary, where we know for a fact if we got a call home, we was gonna get in trouble. Our parents was gonna whoop our ass. You feel what I'm saying? We was gonna get on punishment. Get grounded, get punishment. If you had allowance, your allowance was getting taken away from you, or your parent was just gonna, go up to that school and talk to your teacher. Your teacher's gonna tell the parent what's really going on, and not even because some people used to try to like avoid from getting them phone calls home. But yeah, my point to this is like even the nice teachers, they get taken advantage of. They thinking that if they're in a class, if you got a nice teacher in a classroom full of rambunctious and rowdy kids, that teacher's going to get walked all over. I'm sorry to say, but it's the truth.
I realized today it's not behaviors that are causing teachers to leave, it's apathy. The kids of today are not motivated at all. Even doing a fun book study, like, they don't care. What's worse about not caring about their work is they don't care about consequences. They don't care if they get in trouble. They don't care if they get in school suspension. They don't care if you call their parents. How do you battle that? You can't. There's nothing more draining than consistently battling this apathy. It's like you're fighting against a unmovable wall. It's just so draining and disheartening when you're putting your heart and soul into something for hardly any care. Like, you can focus on the kids that care, but man, it's apathy. It really is.
Lack of support.
I just quit today with no notice. I couldn't take it anymore. Yesterday, our assistant principal sent an email to all of the teachers at 1:10 p.m., informing us that dismissal would be done totally different. We dismissed at 1:50. We had a teacher's work day the day before. That morning, the AP was sitting on the bench at 10:10, just chilling. But instead of sending us the email telling us about a change in the dismissal, he had time to sit and chill on the bench. We don't get a bathroom break, a lunch break, and our planning is taken because other people have quit. I'm tired of working like I'm a widget maker in a factory, instead of the professional that I am.
Low compensation.
And the thing is, how do you combat that? What, you gonna get violent, super violent, and physical with them? You can't, right? So I understand where these teachers is coming from, is trying to be as diplomatic and non-confrontational as possible. You feel me? Trying to de-escalate situations and diffuse situations, which you should do. You should, if you can, do that. But I can understand why some of these teachers feel bad, feel bad about feel bad about, actually. I can understand why some of these teachers feel bad about actually having to leave the profession, as well as having to deal with the mental health problems that come along with dealing with kids that are just totally out of control. And then the parents, they don't do the parenting at home, so it's like the teachers is fighting against a lot. And I don't think a lot of teachers get paid enough to try to be a counselor to the parents and the family, also to be a teacher on top of that. You get what I'm saying? So with that being said, y'all check out some more of this video, and I just want to try to think about what these teachers are saying. All right, so that out of the way, past school. With that being said, y'all check this out. I'm signing out. Peace.
I quit my teaching job in the middle of the school year, and here's a couple of the reasons why. Because of the stress and the secondhand trauma from the classroom, I developed anxiety and I fell into a depression. I had to go to the doctor, and he prescribed me talk therapy and antidepressants, all to cope with my daily job. I started to notice that I was dreading going into work every day. As life went on and circumstances changed for me, I realized how important money was going to be, and I couldn't really afford to live the life I wanted to on a teacher's salary. So I was going to have to get into something else that would make more money. I also noticed that I didn't have any energy left over for me. Being with students all day really drained you, and so my personal life was suffering. The number one reason I didn't want to do it anymore is because of the behavior issues. I just got tired of dealing with them, and so I knew it was my time to leave.
High stakes testing and accountability pressure.
I left teaching. I got into teaching. I was an English teacher, and it was great at first. The system, specifically when it came to the idea of grading papers. Quite naively, I think, I assumed that grading was relatively fair. Obviously, we appreciate that there are some areas of nuance and subjectivity when it comes to essays in particular, but all in all, I thought, it couldn't be that bad. After all, it is a system that we all use. I was quite surprised how bad the grading system is in schools.
Challenging working conditions.
I quit teaching. I have been kind of checked out, and mentally and emotionally done with this job. I'm leaving, and it wasn't a decision that I have taken lightly. This is a decision that I have been thinking about all year. This year has been extremely challenging for me. I'm not sure if, for those of you who are not in education, are aware of what's happening in schools, but it's not easy. I don't think people truly understand what teachers are going through. Lots of children are not told no at home, which makes my job extremely difficult when it comes to having them hold accountability for their actions and their mistakes and following directions and keeping their hands to themselves. This year, I have been cursed at by both students and parents. I have been hit, punched repeatedly. And what hurts the most is the lack of support from the families when you are telling them and explaining what their child did. Instead of asking you, are you okay? Or my child did what? They ask you, well, what did you do to make them upset? Or are there cameras in the room? The behaviors that I have had to put up with this year are behaviors that I have never experienced as a teacher so far. I have cried so much, more than I have, with all my teaching of years combined. I feel like I have taken off so many days from my mental health because I have not been able to mentally or physically bring myself to school. Education is not in a good place right now. It's really bad. I have so many stories that I could talk about that I will be posting later, but it's time to go. It's time to go. Again, this was not an easy decision, but I do feel that it is necessary for myself and my own mental health. And it does break my heart that I am walking away for something that I went to school with and had so much passion for, but that passion is gone.
A changing educational landscape.
Teachers of all ages are quitting their job because of the behavior of Gen Alpha students. And they are citing that exact reason for the decision of them leaving the profession. So many people want to disparage the individual teacher for making that decision, saying that it's their age or it's the era in which they began their career, where they just can't handle this new generation of kids anymore. A few videos back, I discussed how Gen Z teachers and younger teachers that have just entered the profession are seeing some of these behaviors and they're alarmed, and a lot of them are calling it quits after a few years, realizing this is not what they want to do and put up with for the rest of their life. And I see so many people trying to say, well, they're just young and immature and they just don't know what this is all about, and if they can't handle the profession, it's good they get out now because they don't deserve the title of teacher and they need to let somebody else step in and do the job for them. When in reality, we have teachers like this person's mother who have been in the game for several decades, who knew exactly what they were getting into at the start, who had no issues up to this point. But now that they have Gen Alpha students in their classroom, they are more than willing to give up their retirement, give up their retirement pay, just so that they can escape the chaos that your children are bringing into the classroom. And what do people say about them, the older teachers? Well, they're just old and tired and jaded, and they needed to get out of the game a long time ago. They need to step aside and let some of the younger ones come in and do the job. And then you have teachers like me who were somewhere in the middle, who are in their 30s or 40s, have 5, 10, 15 years left in their career, who are also saying the same things. They're tired of dealing with the violence. They're tired of dealing with the apathy. They're tired of dealing with parents who are making the excuses and fighting them all the way through the process. They're tired of getting assaulted in their own classroom and getting blamed for it. So if you're going to sit there and blame age and era on the fact that a teacher just can't handle the job, which one is it? Is it that they're too young? Is it that they're too old? Because here's my opinion. If there are such a large majority of teachers throughout several different generations, from people in their 20s all the way through just a few years before retirement, are all saying the same thing about your children, Gen Alpha students, then you would think that it's not the generation of the teacher or the individual teacher, that the common denominator is you and your kids. Let me tell you something. A teacher doesn't just go 20 or 30 years into their career and then decide, I've had it. This is just not it for me, for no reason. You have to get to a certain point in your career where your mental health and physical health are so wrecked and in the toilet that you have to do it for survival. And any teacher that you talk to that is going to sit there and deny that there are increased issues in the classroom or gaslight other teachers for having problems and making the decision to leave are the kinds of teachers who made up their mind a long time ago that they're going to survive on a martyrdom complex and it would never matter the circumstances. This is not the only story that I hear of veteran teachers making the decision to leave the profession because they just cannot handle it anymore. It makes me incredibly sad because I hear stories like this from secondhand sources and from the teachers themselves of people that are nearing retirement age almost every single day in my comment section that said, I had to make this decision for me. And the reason why it makes me so incredibly sad is because these people made a choice a long time ago that they were getting into this job to help children because they loved teaching and they loved helping children. And the fact that they've gotten to the point where they feel like they can no longer help or serve children, and that the children have such a disdain for being there and having them as their teacher that they just feel like they're completely inept and useless, that's incredibly sad. You won't hear a lot of teachers who have decided to quit the profession that say they just quit the profession because they don't like teaching. Most of us have made the decision to quit classroom teaching because we had to do it to survive. And there's a ton of mourning and there's a ton of sadness and loss that goes into that decision. It's as if a part of our life has died. Okay? This idea that the kids haven't changed, the parents haven't changed, the teachers have changed. We're the only part of this equation that has shifted and evolved, and that teachers just don't want to teach anymore and teachers just can't handle it anymore is just simply ridiculous. It's a work of fiction. If anything, teachers have become more resilient because we've had to put up with more roadblocks and more drama and more toxicity, not just from the kids, but from parents and from admin and from the community and from our government. It's not that teachers just don't want to teach anymore. It's that teachers have had it with the bullshit that parents are throwing their way every day, and the fact that they're teaching their kids to treat them like garbage, to not care about their schoolwork, to not care about their peers or anybody else's feelings, to throw hands and get in fights with the kids and the adults around them just because they're uncomfortable and triggered. It's because these kids are being taught that because the world is on fire, that nothing matters, and so every decision they make is just a decision and it doesn't affect anybody else around them. Teachers don't just not want to teach anymore. They don't want to teach under these conditions anymore.
Work-life balance.
We were told this week is that we are not to have sick days. They said, of course, if you're sick, have a sick day, blah, 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 but we kind of don't want you to have sick days because we literally don't have any budget left. Casual teachers. So if someone's sick, your class will get split, which then puts pressure on other teachers and they get frustrated and then they want to have sick days because they're so overworked and they have 40 children in their class. So it's just a constant spiral. The other thing, because of these budget cuts, we literally don't have any resources. I haven't been given a single thing to help me with my class this year. I haven't even been given a pen. This is public schools I'm talking about at the moment. I have had about 5 years in private schools. Completely different story in terms of resourcing. I asked the school if I could get some books for my students to read, like class novel sets. The answer was no. We don't have a budget. We don't have enough laptops, even though we're meant to teach technology. There's not enough money in the budget. We don't have enough whiteboard pens. Not enough money in the budget. Get me started on worksheets. So we're told we're not allowed to print worksheets anymore. We're only given a certain amount of paper per term. Once you're out of that paper, that's it. No worksheets anymore. However, with all of this being said, they're constantly telling us that student grades are declining and that they want to upskill teachers. Yet we don't actually have any resources to implement any of the things that we're being told we need to do.
Lack of autonomy.
Now, it makes me laugh when people literally think teachers work 9 till 3:15. No, most teachers get to school about 8 because you have a million things to do literally every day, and they won't leave until like 4 the latest. Literally, it gets to about 3:15, 3:30. You close your eyes, you breathe, and then it's like 4 o'clock, which is, again, your normal work. So 8 till 4 is like what most people do. And then again, you're doing all this extra work, evenings, weekends. There is always something to do, whether it's marking, setting targets, planning lessons, adapting resources. Even if you have all your resources for your lessons, like there's so much expectations for you to adapt them. Okay, but how are you going to help that student? How are you going to help this student? You know, you have a class of 30. It's so hard to deliver a good lesson for every single student in the class. Now, don't get me wrong, I believe you should, but where is the time? This is what I don't get. There's so much pressure for us to have amazing, brilliant lessons, but then there's just not enough time for us to actually deliver those amazing, brilliant, good lessons.
Behavioral challenges.
Thousands of teachers are not coming back after break. And here's just one of the reasons why. First year teacher here in an urban middle school, 8th grade. Yesterday I got between a male student who was going to slam a female student in the head with his chair. It escalated so quickly I forgot to think. The male student fell out of his chair and blamed the girl for pulling it out from him since she was passing from behind him when it happened. He went from shouting at her to ready to hit her with his chair in about 3 seconds. I got between them, got the chair to the chest level, trying to coax him to let it go and ask if he was hurt. I saw his face change once he realized I wasn't going to let him attack his peer, and he surged against me, pinning me with the chair onto the desk behind me. He has about 50 to 60 pounds on me. I'm 5'3" and 120 pounds, and I was nowhere near strong enough to get out. Other students tried to help, but eventually another teacher saw the situation through my window and came in to break it up. Student was suspended. I held it together for the rest of the class, but then I had a total breakdown after school. This was the 5th day of school. I'm on my 5th day of teaching ever. I know I'm not supposed to get between students when they fight, but it happened so quickly I thought could de-escalate. The girl was sitting at her desk by the time the male student went to attack her. She would have been seriously injured. Not sure what I'm looking for other than maybe some advice on how to carry on. I feel like I knew what I signed up for, but also I didn't sign up to be attacked by students at school.
Inadequate professional development.
After years of being told, don't like teaching, just quit, guess what teachers are doing? Quitting. In record numbers. And it's leading to national staffing shortages. As right now, we're winding up with sub-shortages across the country. And those shortages are making their way into regular classroom teachers as well. And this has so many consequences. For starters, when there isn't a sub, a bunch of other teachers in the building lose their prep, meaning that they get more behind, more stressed, more overworked, and more likely to have to take time off, and it feeds the cycle. Teachers are exhausted. They've had enough of the abuse. They've had enough of being underpaid and overworked, and they're leaving. And I know people are going to jump into the comments saying, "Oh, lazy teachers, spoiled teachers." Okay, there's a shortage. Go apply. If it's that great a job, go do it. Because the people who are currently doing it are telling you it's unsustainable. The only people who tell you it's easy are people who have never done it a day in their lives. And in Ontario, they're talking about lowering teacher training to a single year in order to deal with this. Because that's how the problem gets addressed, by lowering standards, not by improving conditions. This is an education system on the brink of collapse. We failed to invest in people, we failed to invest in schools. And once there are no teachers left, what's the plan? Because the people who are outstanding teachers with extensive training are leaving. And they're being replaced with unqualified teachers and people with one-year teaching certificates.